All right, I believe the recording has started.
It has.
So, welcome everyone. Tonight, we are going to be talking about publicity, doing more with less. We are so happy for the folks who are able to join us. Hello, good evening, happy Boston Marathon Day from your presenters who are based in Massachusetts, and I hope everyone listening to the recording is having a wonderful day too. So we're all here because I believe we're all volunteers, right? We're all working on Relay, and we've all got those, family and life obligations. So we're trying to be super efficient to get the word out for our event, right? I just love this picture and this image of a Relay participant. We want to let everyone know what's going on. So Christy and I are going to introduce ourselves, and then we're going to go through some of the ideas that have worked for us in our volunteer roles. So let me see. Oh, sorry guys, trying to advance the slide. Actually, first, before that, I'm going to end the poll. We took a quick poll while people were waiting to begin. What did you most hope to learn during this call? More about local publicity was it the first choice? More about social media, or a mix of both? It looks like across the board, everyone's looking for a mix. So thank you for that input, you guys. We'll be sure and spend equal time talking about both of those things. I don't know. I'm probably going to have to look to Keisha again about how I'm having trouble advancing my slide.
It should just, if you hit your arrow on your computer, on your keyboard or something, you should be able to just roll through them.
Okay. Apologies, guys. The best laid plans, right? We did a practice run this afternoon, but yet. There we go. Ta-da! So just to give you an idea of who's talking to you, that's me in the top left, on the left with the purple shirt. I started as a Relay volunteer back in 2012, about 6 years ago, and I've been on staff for close to 3 years now. I just, I say Relay's in my heart, although I work on all of our events here at the American Cancer Society. And like I'm sure a lot of you, I'm here for a lot of reasons. My grandmother, my aunt, my uncle, cousins, best friend, there's too much of it. So like I'm sure all of you, this is super important to me. And I'll let Christy introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I am Chrissy. I've been relaying since about 2010. I am on the very left in my picture in the lower right. That was at our relay last year. I've been relaying as a volunteer, and most recently, the past 2 years, I have been the co-lead for the relay for Braintree, Milton, Quincy, and Randolph. In addition to that, I also have been doing the Pulling for Hope of Boston, where we pull a 150 passenger airplane 24 feet. It's a lot of fun. I've been doing it. This will be my 3rd year doing it. My 2nd year, hopefully, on the planning committee. It's a great day. It's a lot of fun. And I relay because I have friends that have had cancer. I have family members that have had cancer, so it's very close to my heart, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, definitely. And Chrissy and I teamed up for a volunteer summit we had here in Eastern Massachusetts a month or so ago. And it's funny, in talking to each other and talking to other volunteers, I think it's no secret, there's no one size fits all. Right? Some of us are in more populated, more urban-like areas. Some of us are in the suburbs. Some of us, I support people up in rural Maine where, you drive and there's not a whole lot going on. So anything that we talk about, of course, is something you want to make work for your community or your campus or wherever you may be volunteering. So that said, we're going to say here are some rules of thumb that seem to work for all of us. And I think that number one thing, it's in caps, make it personal. We want to share with people, right, what's going on, the important meetings and fundraisers or campaigns, whatever it may be, but you want to tell them why. I mean, Christy and I are trying to, be mindful of your time tonight, but I think we all have that personal connection to cancer that we can share. We're going to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide, but, we always want to share a little bit about the mission, a little bit about maybe the people who've inspired our teams. And like I said, we'll give more specific examples down the road, but basically no matter what you do for publicity, if you connect it to the why, you're going to be doing great. Draft one announcement, write up one paragraph and reuse it in many different ways. Send it to your local newspaper, put it on Facebook, maybe, shorten it up and make a flyer. It's hopefully you're using that mindset of working more efficiently, and you don't have to sit down and write 5 different things, but maybe write something once to describe the who, what, when, wheres that you're trying to communicate, and share it in a variety of ways. When talking about local publicity, I always remind people to ask if someone can share our news. I happen to come from a public relations background, and that's how I got into my volunteer role, but not everybody does, right? Some people are just approaching this and saying, hey, I care about this. I want to lend my time. In many ways, it's not really rocket science. We want to get in touch with our local news outlets, or, maybe, again, we'll talk in a few slides, but, maybe there's a sign in town that the local Rotary Club runs, and you say, hey, can you post Relay for Life on there? Just be respectful and ask. And remind virtually anybody who will listen to you to spread the news as well. Your ELT or event leadership team is a captive audience. They're great ones to ask. We'll talk down the road too. Sometimes share it with other civic organizations, whatever that news is that you're trying to share. And just, it's once you start, you get into the habit of it, of always bringing it up. And then I have this little bit of advice in quotes from a former PR client many, many years ago, who used to say, count to 10 before you press send. And that's just a reminder to us all to proofread. I, for one, have had to edit one press release and work 3 different times this week. And we just keep finding things. Everybody needs a proofreader. So those are just some rules of thumb, like I said, that works across the board. But Christy and I wanted to share just a few examples of different things here. This is one, obviously, we put this together a few months ago, but this relay team, they relay in a town called Lynn, Massachusetts, and I really watch them every year because they live in Lynn. I believe they relay in a town called Wakefield. Point being, year after year, they have restaurant fundraisers, or they'll host Touch a Truck, where, they get a whole bunch of those like construction trucks and ambulances and interesting things where kids can come and climb on them and beep the horns and stuff. But anytime they share it with their local newspaper, they always talk about the inspiration for their team name and who they're relaying for. The man all the way on the right in the Patriots gear, sorry if we have non-Patriots fans, his name is Guy, and they relay in honor of his mother. And the name of their team is Moms Cancer Fighting Angels. This event happened to have an ugly sweater party, as you can kind of see there. So, they have fun with it. They make it personal. They're in the community, and it's not just another fundraiser, so to speak, but they really, they explain why they're doing it. I don't know, Chrissy, if you had anything else to add on the why or the make it personal.
Yeah, when you want to make it personal, you want to, make a call to action, and just why are you doing this? Who are you doing this for? Their story was a great story. Why they were doing it, and they had their this was at Fuddruckers, wasn't it? And they had
Yeah.
They had the Touch the Truck. They had a whole bunch of
Oh, and raffles and things like
raffles and
that. Yeah.
everything. And it was just everybody that came together, and it's great. It's a great community thing for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a, you really, really want to make it personal.
Mm-hmm. And I know Guy on the right there, we had shared with the staff like template press releases, and that was pretty much all he needed. He was off and running.
Right.
So, I try to, I happen to be on staff, but, there are templates available on Relay Connect, on Brand Toolkit, that you can adapt to whatever's going on in your community with your event. So moving on, with that said, don't get caught up and worry about having a fancy format. I always tell people, really, the newspapers on a real local level, and once you get up into like TV stations, radio stations, if you call, often they're going to say, just email me the info. So it might be best to start with an email that has just the text, just a paragraph of what's going on, or even break it up into the who, what, when, where. Photos are always great to illustrate an event, like the event Chrissy works on too, that plane pole that is so super visual. I mean, it's this giant JetBlue Airbus plane with a rope attached to it with a bunch of people pulling on it. Fire truck pulls. I know in upstate New York, they do a snowplow pull. Our Bark for Life events, any kind of photo that's going to be illustrate what you're trying to get across is super. A lot of times you can insert it right into an email. If you look on one of your tabs for the insert button, some news outlets aren't crazy about attachments, but one or two shouldn't really bog them down. Before, most news outlets will have their contact information right on the website. There's usually a contact us button or a masthead, or even at the end of a story, it'll have someone's email address. But those people, like all of us, they're always changing jobs. So just take the extra 30 seconds or 2 minutes to make sure you're reaching out to the correct contact info and the correct person. Calendar listings are super easy and very much free way to get out the word about whatever you're trying to communicate. There's up in Maine, they just did Easter eggs, and I don't think it was like an Egg My House type of event, but they were, there was schools involved, and they were putting all these little briefs in their local newspapers and listing themselves on, a lot of newspapers will have a calendar section, and you just have to often sign up for a free account, and they'll let you list it there for free. Local cable access TV stations often they have a bulletin board station. Like they'll have, say, 3 stations you can tune into. One's always got the high school football game, and one's always got the selectmen's meeting, and one will just be like scrolling flyers. It's a real easy way to get that across. I think most of us are near a Craigslist website. Something like that, or I put Patch up here as an example. It's not in every community, but there's a lot of these hyper local news outlets that are springing up, and all they want is your contact information, and then you can just post away. Letters to the editor are another great way to personalize it and to get people involved with whatever's going on. Again, there's templates on Brand Toolkit, but often you just need to recruit someone who's, genuinely involved, whether somebody on your event leadership team, yourself could be fine. If anybody does like Heroes in Purple, kind of like a spin on the Real Men Wear Pink campaign, they're great people to ask. Survivors, caregivers, that's going to be more of the personal call to action, the ask of neighbors that can appear in the newspaper. And like we've mentioned, it's those stories and people sharing insight into what it's really like to go through the cancer journey that are going to encourage people to get involved with our event. That's all I ever tell people. Are you comfortable sharing your story? What do you think? there was a guy on in my town's relay. I had met him on the planning committee. I knew he worked at our local supermarket, but then someone said, no, you should talk to him. And he was diagnosed like 2 days before our relay, was only going to go because some people he worked with were going, showed up, and he ended up walking all night long. And he said, you know, that event gave him so much hope. And I was like, wow, you know, and he kept saying, oh, I don't have a story. I'm nothing special. I'm nothing special. But I sat down, I took some notes, I wrote up a few paragraphs. I literally snapped a picture of him on my cell phone, and I sent it to our local newspaper. Now they're down on staff, you know, they're lucky. All these small newspapers are lucky if they have a couple of reporters, if that. They're so happy when they get content from us. And, you know, it ran. It was this great story that it just helped illustrate why we do what we do. So, like I said, don't get caught up in any fancy format along those lines. This is an example. I'm not expecting you to take in all these words, but just so you can look at the format. This is a relay up in Maine, and last year they went from an overnight to just a daytime, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. So that was the point they wanted to emphasize. We put it in their headline, and we really spelled out the schedule of events you could see there under the when, just to drive home that point, like, hey guys, hey community, don't forget, it's during the day, it's not overnight. And then I also want to point out that we listed all the local sponsors down there below. They happen to run a sponsorship challenge, which kind of bleeds over more into the, you know, bring the people, bring the fun, bring the money, whatever. They really hit it out of the park with a lot of local sponsors. So we wanted to make sure that they felt the love, and we added them into a press release where we might not have done that otherwise. So like you see here, pretty basic, and that's pretty much what your local media is looking for. It communicates everything really succinctly. So resources around town. This is, mine and Chrissy's one of our favorite sections. Yeah. These are all the things that, like the physical, like low-tech PR. Print up some flyers, take them around town. I'm going to skip around on the order here a little bit, but just talking about flyers, there are so many places that we look at. If anybody is addicted to Starbucks, feel free to chime in the chat box like I am. I am there many times a day. My barista says, what would you like, hot or iced? They know my order. And they have their bulletin board or their chalkboard, or it's magnetized, you know, and that's prime place to put up a flyer while somebody's waiting for their coffee. The YMCA, you know, there's families, anywhere where there's a lot of people going through, supermarkets, libraries, some doctor's offices, if, you know, hair salons, businesses will often put these things up when they're nonprofit. Any other existing community events are a great thing. I always love jumping onto an event that's already going on, because then I don't have to advertise it quite as much. Our downtown shuts down Main Street for what's called Family Fun Night every July. And granted, it's a month after our relay walk, but it's just a great spot for people to walk up, ask questions. Oh, I've heard about this, but I'm not sure what it is. You know, sometimes we play some of the games that have been at relay at that table, but that event is already going on. We don't need to bring everyone down there. They're already coming down there. Sorry, again, I'm skipping around on my bullets, but I mentioned civic organizations. Chrissy and I have talked about this quite a bit. We love the sharing within our towns, because let's face it, those of us who are involved, right? It's once we get hooked in, we get hooked into everything, right? I happen to have kids who are 11 and 9. You know, it's the PTA, it's the booster clubs, it's everything else. But you know, there's one woman on our relay planning committee who I met through the town cleanup. You know, we do like the Earth Day cleanup, and then she got involved with relay, and I know she's involved with the church too, where we often sell luminaria bags. And it's just, you know, once you tap into those involved people, it's really easy to say, okay, you know, I'll promote your downtown business stroll if you promote my Paint the Town Purple Day. You know, okay, garden club, we'll share the information about your plant sale if you put in this car wash, you know. And a lot of these clubs have newsletters, or they have meetings, or they have Facebook groups, whether public or private. I love the police and fire departments. They're like, yeah, we're putting it up in the break room. I'm like, super, you know, thumbs up. Thanks, guys and ladies. And the town, I go and working my way up. The town signboards are what we're calling it loosely. I think most towns have some kind of common area or a busy intersection or some sort of electronic sign somewhere where people get those quick things, you know, town election today, support the schools, support that. So this is, the next slide here is my horrible picture. I'm so sorry, but guess what? It got taken. Now this car wash, car complex where they do maintenance and a car wash is right near our town's commuter rail station. You can commute into Boston or Providence for my town. Amtrak goes by. It's the busiest intersection for the streets. And you know, they have sponsored Relay in the past, and they dropped off a few years. And then I just got in touch and said, can you put Relay for Life on your sign? And they said, yeah, sure. And that's what they did that year. And then the next year they were able to sponsor for a couple $100s. And it's just free and easy. I know this is not the best picture, but it says Fight Cancer, Relay for Life, June 16, 17, MHS track. Boom. You know, people are going to Google it. They're going to show up. It's going to get a lot of eyes on it for not a whole lot of effort on your part, not a whole lot of time. Chrissy, I don't know if you want to talk about Susan reaching out to the town of Braintree.
Yeah, my co-lead for our relay, Susan, she's from Braintree, so she knows a lot of people within the town, and she was able to get our relay advertised on one of the billboards on Route 128, 93. So as you were coming into Braintree on 93, it's kind of confusing, that little area of the highway. As you come into the Braintree exits, you see on the big screen as it's changing, come to the relay, you know, and the dates and everything. So that was really good advertising for Relay and getting it out, not just within the town, but people driving by there every day will see that sign. Hey, look, Relay's coming up for Braintree.
I was blown away. For those outside of our area, this is a major hub, highway point into Boston.
Yeah.
So many. I tried to get the estimated value, but I mean, the value was like $3,000 or $4,000, all because Susan just asked, hey, can we be on that sign? Sure.
Yeah.
And there is actually a digital billboard template in Brand Toolkit. So it was easy breezy, lemon squeezy for her to get that up there. And, you know, it's just, you know, if you think about where the eyeballs go in your town, or just start asking people, how'd you find out about that? How do you know about that? You'll come up with some of these signs, as we call it, the town signboards. So moving on to the real thick of it, social media tips. Chrissy, I'm just going to get us going, and then I know you have a lot more to add in this area.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to remind everyone too that personal stories have a big impact. You know, relay season is really getting going in my area. We have quite a few colleges in our who relay inside. And I've been just telling any staff who will listen that I'd much rather have you post one picture with one genuine, impactful quote than try to run around and take a whole bunch of pictures and post every day and you know, flood everybody's news feed. Excuse me. Really, we're just, you know, we're trying to, like we said, we're trying to make it personal. We're trying to hit people in their heart, maybe. But ask your followers to share their personal stories or their photos. everyone hopefully wants to share their connection, or they might not. They might just take comfort in reading everyone's connection, but personal stories are going to be the hook. Become better storytellers is what we're saying locally. And that doesn't mean we need to write a book, but a sentence or two, 3 sentences. Oops, somebody sneezing. God bless you. Tagging, we could always email and talk separately if you need some help with that, or you can even check in your social media's help function how to tag. Most platforms will have you do that @ symbol over the numeral 2, and you begin typing, say, the name of your sponsor, or the name of, some teams have their own accounts. Tagging people in your posts gets you so much more exposure in social media. And let's back up. I think we're all on board, right? That social media is the way to go.
It's huge.
It's huge, right? Everyone's on it all day long. There's all these studies out there that people are getting their news more so from social media rather than, say, a traditional news outlet. People value what their friends, their real friends are telling them on social media so highly. So hence why we have, and it's free for most of us, unless you're really talking about ads on social media. It is a low cost, low effort way for you to get the word out. I'm going to kind of buzz through these, and Chrissy's going to go into a little bit more, but when we say here on this 3rd bullet down, a call to action, that might be a new phrase to some people, but basically it's just as it sounds. You're asking people to take some sort of action, share what's your favorite part of relay, who do you relay for, we asked for song requests for the DJ one year at our relay. Like and show your support. Comment below on virtually anything. That's something that you want to get your users engaged and really clicking and stopping and looking and reading. Follow other Relay for Life pages. Chrissy's going to go into that. Remember, our national ACS relay accounts are all Relay for Life, whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Look at what they're posting, share it, like it. It's always, really polished and top notch. So that's a terrific piece of content for you. Follow and post to your local Facebook groups. And I'm going to sort of turn it over to Chrissy at this point, let her go into that and any other points that she'd like to make on this.
Sure, thank you. So one of my jobs on the ELT is I do a lot of our social media, and the best thing to do, if that's what you do with your ELT, you want to set time aside, either on a specific day, every day. I usually, on the weekends, plan out my week, how I'm going to post stuff, where I'm going to post stuff. And you want to make sure you're engaging at the right times of day. There's been studies that show, what's the best time to be posting things, whether it's first thing in the morning or during lunchtime or at the end of the evenings, like around 7 or 8 o'clock. That's when people are really out there on social media. They're unwinding, they're having their cup of coffee in the morning, and they're reading what's being posted. Like Teresa said, follow other Relay for Life pages. I follow to get ideas on what they're doing for posts, see what they're posting about. I follow, a couple of examples are the Rutland, Vermont Relay for Life page. They're, Teresa, they're the biggest in the Northeast?
In New England, it's actually Farmington, Connecticut, and Greater Gardner, Massachusetts. But yeah, Rutland, Vermont is still pretty big. Yeah,
they're huge. I have a love for Vermont because I used to live there, so I follow them. But they do it at the fairgrounds in Rutland City, and it's just amazing what they post. The college Relay for Life pages I also
Mhm.
follow. They're really great. So it's, you know, like at Christmas time, they did the 12 days of relay. So every day was something new that you could post. That was really a cool idea that I got. You can get them from some good pages to follow are the Relay for Life event leadership teams. There's a support community page, the American Cancer Society Relay for Life page, community pages. That's where you can get everything out there, get the word out. I follow Braintree's town pages and Braintree, Milton, Quincy, Randolph. It's a mouthful. I'm on their pages posting everything about Relay, so they know the word's getting out, so that they, you know, will come.
Mhm.
Let local
I'm,
groups.
or like I'm in some parent group Facebook groups, and I only post occasionally, once or twice, you know.
Right.
But yeah, exactly, like those.
You know, talk to the admins. Make sure that's one rule of thumb. A lot of the admins sometimes are iffy about what you put on their pages, but if you reach out to them ahead of time, hey, it's relay season. I'm going to be posting a lot of posts from our relay. Is that okay? Usually 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, great, post away. It's great to put fundraisers out there. If your relay teams are having fundraisers, post them on your page as well as the community pages. Gets the word out. Pin them. You want to pin Facebook events to the top of your page. That way there, it's the first thing that people who are visiting the page will see. Hey, there's a fundraiser coming up next Friday. Maybe I'll be able to go to it. Or there's a team meeting coming up, so that they'll set that on their calendar.
I'm just going to scoot to the next page here, because
Okay.
a lot of the things we're talking about
Are on that page. Okay.
yeah, are on that page too. You know, and we're talking a lot of what Chrissy and I are mentioning works really well with Facebook. It's kind of like the great equalizer, if you will. But do what's right for your community. I know in our town, we said, we want to get more youth involved. Let's join Instagram. And it just didn't quite work out right.
Right.
I'm just not sure we were an Instagram town, you know. For us, we've found we connect more so with the people, with the walkers, the participants on Facebook, and we connect more with the corporate sponsors and the town committees and the town, like the police and fire department on Twitter. But like we said, you know, the college relays are really focused on Instagram. They do a lot of Instagram stories for those quick 24-hour posts with polls, and you know, they debut some of their raffle items. They give you a look at t-shirts. They do a lot of what we call behind the scenes, which we mention here. You know, you may say, well, what do we have to post? You know, any photos or videos from the planning stage are great. And I know I'm a terrible presenter because I hop around on all these bullets, but Chrissy actually had a good post. It's the screen capture here on the right from around Christmas time that remind me, Chrissy, it was holiday cards, right? You were sending holiday cards to your survivors.
Our ELT gets together every year. This, I think, was our 5th year doing it. And we make Christmas cards that we send out to all the survivors in our survivor community. And some go, I think we do send some to the Hope Lodge. But it's a great thing to let survivors know that we're thinking of them, not just at relay time, but throughout the year. We also do, we just recently had an afternoon tea where a survivor can come with their caregiver and just sit and relax, have a cup of tea, have some afternoon treats, tell their stories, and hear from other survivors. It's a really nice afternoon just to forget about the troubles of life for a little while,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's, and take pictures and post them up on your Facebook page. That will show that, you're still doing stuff outside of Relay and still being, getting word out.
Yeah. I mean, I pull out my phone quite a bit to take photos, and like I've always been that way. And I mentioned I have kids too, but it's a little bit of a habit to get into and then people feel like, oh, but just be goofy about it. Just say, oh, say stinky cheese, take their picture. And, just people always are like, well, what am I going to do? I'd say if your photo is just well lit, you're good to go. It's like
Right.
the best starting point. But like Chrissy said, just whatever might be going on. Oh, you're unboxing your t-shirts. You've done a site visit to the track. Imagine this track filled with people on what such and such date. They all make great posts. People love to see what's happening in the planning stages.
Right.
Skipping back to this first bullet, hashtags. I do want to point out those are really best on public posts.
Right.
So if you're posting, like my Facebook happens to be private. So I'm not going to use a hashtag, so I will. Hashtags are the way people can really search on a topic that interests them. Like in Massachusetts, we have a bicycling event where they do a 50-mile, 75-mile, 100-mile course. So they'll often use like hashtag cycling for their posts because they're going to get enthusiasts who like to bicycle. If we use hashtag walk, it might be a little bit too broad, so you want to try to personalize it. Chrissy brought up a really good point for this plane pull event last year. They set a goal of 125,000 and their hashtag was flying to 125K.
And we had that on every post.
Every single thing, right?
Every tweet, every Instagram, so that our post would go viral.
Yeah. Yeah, the same thing, you think airplanes or JetBlue or
Right,
Boston Logan Airport, it's a little broad, but if you do that hashtag, it helps narrow it down. Or I was reminding myself just recently, if, check if there's an existing hashtag that maybe your town, your community, your campus already uses. We had Relay for Life in Endicott College, it's north of Boston, and they really love their Gulls mascot. So they use Go Gulls quite a bit at the school already. So when I went there for Relay to post, I used Go Gulls for our posts. Trending nationally this year, set by our national staff teammates, is Why I Relay. So that's a super easy one, right? We've all got those reasons of why I relay. So make sure that that's in your regular rotation as you're posting this year.
Right. You also want to use Relay for Life. You always want to have that on your posts as a hashtag if you're going to use the hashtags. Also use your towns. If you're like us, I hashtag Braintree, Milton, Quincy, and Randolph, so that they're there too. Attacking cancer at every angle. That's a good one, Chris.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that's true. Attacking cancer and attacking cancer at every angle is definitely used across the board with ACS right now.
Right. Our theme this year is country theme. So we're using hashtags kicking cancer and boot scoot to 90K. Because we're setting our goal at 90,000. So.
Oh, you guys will get there.
Yeah, we will.
So also just a few reminders about scheduling, because the whole premise of this is that we're all tight on time, right? Facebook will let you schedule posts in the future when you have a business page, a community page. That's super helpful. If you know something's coming up. Actually, all during football season, I manage our American Cancer Society in Massachusetts page. And all during football season, I was helping to promote the Defender tool that ACS has for really giving you some guidelines on screenings and cancer prevention. And I would always schedule it during the Patriots games because I figured people are sitting there, they're maybe scrolling through their phone. You know, find what works best for you. If you know there's a really big town event going on, maybe, you know, if you think people are going to be pulled away to that, don't schedule your posts then. Schedule them at a different time. There's also lots of tools that you can use, say, online or on your mobile phone, where you can manage maybe multiple accounts, maybe a personal and a relay, or just manage a relay account and schedule tweets, schedule Instagram posts, schedule Facebook posts in advance. We've listed them out here. Hootsuite, TweetDeck, Buffer, and Falcon are great ones that all have free options. You can pay for more functionality, but they're really great just to help you kind of slice and dice what's going on. Or if you are trying, you know, one key factor I don't even think we've mentioned of social media is you get more followers and more engagement on your posts when you're following other people and you're engaging with other posts. You know, if you do have some of those key sponsors, like their stuff, or, you know, comment on their things. Hey, you know, great job, great win, whatever you want to say, to show you're supporting them back. With these tools here, you can set up different lists. So you might see, okay, here's my list of teams, here's my list of sponsors, here's my list of local schools or towns. I mean, more of our relays have multiple towns, right? So, you know, it's just a different way to kind of take in that information too. And, you know, I tell people just, or like Chrissy said, set aside, you know, 15 minutes on a certain day. You know, I'd say at least once a week, but maybe a couple times a week. Maybe as you're having your coffee, maybe over your sandwich or whatever it may be. And, you know, these tools can help you go through that and see where you might want to. It's really easy to click and like, and, you know, just demonstrate to your community that you're involved with them. We mentioned Canva here too. You can create some really nice images. If folks are unfamiliar, they almost create like a poster. Usually they're square for social media, but it's just a nice looking image that's less of an 8.5 by 11 flyer that you're going to tack up at your supermarket, and more something that's ready-made, you know, crisp, bright colors, or a nice image that's ready-made and ready-sized really for social media. Canva is another one. It has a ton of free templates and images, really easy to use, or you can sort of pay for fancier pictures.
Right. And you can upload your own pictures to Canva as well. So if you want to work with your own photos to make them more, you know, pop more, you can put them up there.
I know the Plane Poll has done that. Right now they're looking for planning committee members, and they've got an image of the plane in the background of their Canva image. Some high schools near me, a couple, maybe 2 years ago now, they had made a Canva image from one of their relays, and they were promoting a $37,000 challenge, which, side note, I loved. They looked up, and in the American Cancer Society statistics, the estimated number of new cases of cancer in our state that year. And then they said, and it was about 37,000. And they said, we're going to raise $37,000 in 37,000 seconds, which was like 10 hours or something like that. They came pretty close. They came in the 20s, but it was great because they personalized it to their community with the image and really, you know, just reached out to every news network, or, you know, every little news avenue they could in this town. And I'm sorry, I flipped it down. I don't know, can you still see the slides? I hope so. But the last bullet down there was just, you know, everyone in all of our relays has access to SMS text messaging, and you know, you should feel free to make use of that. It's a great, I know Chrissy can probably talk, I think they're going to be using it for alerts during the event.
Right.
Some events use it year round. So
Talk
Great,
to
Kristen.
talk to your staff partner who works with you with your ELT team. Our staff partner just introduced it to us at our last ELT meeting, and it's great for sending texts out during the day of the event, a week before. Hey, don't forget to bring this to relay. Hey, we're going to be doing this at 10 o'clock out on the field. You sign up for it, and whoever signs up for it gets text throughout the day. And you can also use it to sending alerts that, hey, we're having a team meeting next week if you want to come. So I think they're reintroducing it. So I would if you're on an ELT, talk to your staff partner. They probably will be able to get you more information. We just learned about it a couple weeks ago, so I think it's making a comeback.
Yeah, definitely. So, without further ado, you can tell we are passionate about Relay. we love it. We are always looking for ways to share our news. But we want to hear from you. What can we go into a little bit more detail on, or do you maybe have some tips for the rest of the folks on the call?
Relay Connect is a great source of information. It gives you videos such as the one that we're doing tonight. There's also other videos out there. There's all kinds of stuff from the brand toolkit that you can download that will help you. Brad Wisdom just said to Chris, it's available, have your community manager talk.
Oh, for SMS.
Oh, okay, he's responding to Chris.
Yeah.
My point, what was my point again? I'm sorry.
SMS text. Yeah, definitely. I know Making Strides Against Breast Cancer of Boston uses the text function year round. They very, judicious with it, and certainly more during the event. And it's great even just for those, real nuts and bolts kinds of things, like sudden rainstorm, moving inside, or whatever it may be.
Right, and they can schedule them so that you give them a whole list of what you want your text to be, and they will schedule them. And you don't have to worry about it. They'll just automatically go out when the time is right. So it's a good source to use. Oh, Relay Connect and the brand toolkit, that was what I was talking about.
Yeah.
They're great resources to find, fundraising tips.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of stuff.
I am going to throw out a pitch here too. Like I said at the beginning, my title is Director of Communications. There are folks who are on staff working across the country like me to make sure that all these tools and resources get into the hands of all the volunteers but we're all here to talk through ideas you may have. Someone may come and say, hey, there's this family and they're doing this amazing thing, and I really think it would be a great TV segment or a great newspaper article. I will, put money on it that my colleagues across the country, everyone would be happy to talk through what idea you have, or we might say, gosh, we've quoted Jane Smith 5 years in a row. We really need somebody besides Jane Smith. Who are your best volunteers? Who are your top teams? It's easy to follow the money and say, the top team, but what are they doing to really engage the community? So my point being, talk with your staff partner, and they can get you in touch with folks like me to help you figure out, hey, where might this work well? And, is this maybe better as a social media post? Is it maybe better as a news story? How can we make the most of it? I know like a volunteer up in Maine working on the Strides event is always competing with this big pumpkin festival up there. So they just decided to embrace it. And they do a pink pumpkin display and, really involve these people working on this other festival in their Strides Walk. And that just came out of us brainstorming. It wasn't truly my idea, but just, there's a lot of us who are there to help you talk it through. And Keisha's reminding us about Voices of Hope. Keisha, you can feel free to come off of mute if you want to do a bit of a pitch for that.
Yeah. Well, Voices of Hope, if folks don't know who those are survivors and caregivers across the nation. It's a national program now, and they are trained. They go through a rigorous training process, and then they have a mentor process that they're in, but they are trained to talk about the American Cancer Society, but obviously from their personal angle. So a lot of what they do is talk about how their personal experience with cancer intersected with the American Cancer Society. And so they're always great to use at, to speak at luminaria ceremonies or at survivor dinners or to help you at those Rotary events or whatever. But sometimes one of their training pieces is interacting with media. So, if you need that story, because that story is going to make such a difference. I know for me, I'm in Arkansas, and a lot of what we hear is, well, how does that affect us? Or how does that approach us locally? Well, you don't get much more local than, a survivor who lives in your community and has experienced these resources and firsthand, what the fundraising's doing. So they're out there, and you can find all their information on Relay Connect, and, how to get your local listing for your region of who to work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And are there more questions? I know we could probably.
I put something else in there. This is Keisha again. One thing I used to do when I was in a different role on an ELT is, so I would just kind of start the year and build a kind of my media, if you will, distribution list. So I loved your suggestion about going on websites and finding email addresses or whatever. And I would just kind of vet it to make sure that it was the right one. But then I just built a distribution list. And then when my communications director, marketing person, or, I went on Relay Connect and found the resource or brand toolkit myself. But each month there's monthly themed mission type things. And so with that, almost always is a template for a press release. And so I just go in and personalize it and put whatever our call to action was that month at the end of it. And so the core of it was pre-written, and then I could I would literally, that was just one of my monthly processes to what Christy was talking about. When I would sit down on that weekend, I would just update it. And then I already had my distribution list created. So it really only took the time at the front of the year. And then it was just kind of a thing I just did on repeat, if you will. But a lot of papers are looking for that content, that fresh content. And so when you're somebody who's providing them something already written, well written, because it's coming from our media department, they're going to jump on it because you've done the work for them and it's reliable. So that was I always found people were really responsive to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like you said, all of these news outlets that we're talking about, they are tight on staff. So if we can provide them something that, and like Keisha said, it's already vetted and written, and you're just plugging in your local details, maybe grab one quote from a different team each month and plug it in there. They're going to eat it right up. But I know I would keep just a simple Word doc. It was about one page, and then it grew to a page and a half that just had, the name, the email address, maybe a little note about, this one only wants it in this format, or this one doesn't, or whatever it was. One of the news outlets that covers both where I relay and where Chrissy relays is the Boston Globe, which is quite large. So, if you're dealing with a larger outlet like that, you could just pop onto the website, see what's been written recently, and maybe add that to the top. Hey, really enjoyed the new restaurant review. Hey, why don't you check out this? We're having a pizza wars to benefit Relay for Life. And, you know, there's all kinds of connections. But I think I'm taking, but I love all the suggestions from Chris D, and I think we need to get him involved as a presenter in one of the future ones. Easy place to get stats, yes. It's often hard to get the information from staff. Yeah, hey, you know what, Chris? I'm going to try to pop out of my slides, copy and paste it, but we can get that to you. There's cancer statistics, I think you're talking about, like, you know, estimated new cases per state or per type of cancer. There's a website, and I don't have it off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on it too.
But I'm trying not to mess up the slides here for folks. So let's see, stop share. Everyone come on this journey with me. It is, all right, if everyone's got their pens ready, it's Cancer Statistics Center. It's Cancer Statistics, plural, center.cancer.org.
Cancer Statistics
Center.cancer.org. Just put that in the little chat box there. And that has, everyone can see, it'll share, you can click on info by state, by cancer type, and this is updated once a year, and you can see different regional statistics, different types of cancer, survival rates, things like that. I see also you asked about research, and that, if you go to cancer.org/research, I know somewhere on there we list, here it is, research we fund. I know our current grants are listed on cancer.org, and that's updated twice a year. We award new grants January 1 and July 1. I'd have to really dig into it a little bit more to find where you could find like the specific grants for your area, but I know it's on that page. I know there's a lot, there's a lot of info to keep track of, but cancer.org is always a great starting point, and you can get in touch with myself or Keisha, and we'll track down other questions. Sure. So where are we getting? We're at 8:58 somehow.
Yeah.
Chrissy and I are there. Thank you to Keisha and the whole National Volunteer Team who invited us. I think, we're like all of you. We're grassroots, and we're bringing some of the best ideas to the people. So thank you for your time. Thank you to everyone who's listening. Last call for questions. Anything else, Chrissy?
I can't think of anything else. I also would like to say thank you to everybody who participated tonight. I hope you walk away with one new point.
Yeah, some inspiration. That's what we all need. Next training is Monday, April 29th. You asked, we answered.
Ah.
Awesome. All right, great, everyone. Well, have a good evening, and relay on. Have the best relay season, people.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.